You asked for it. Here it is. It's a podcast from Apathetic Enthusiasm.
Coming to you live from Rick and Morty's Intro to Story Writing. Learn the basics of story circles, diegesis, and thematic continuity. You can find that and more here on Interdimensional RSS, the unofficial Rick and Morty podcast.
Hello. Wait, what was that?
I sounded like Casey Kasem for a second. The Rick and Morty podcast.
We're spinning the hits. I did not vocally warm up for this. Hello, everybody. My name is Travis.
Hello, everybody. I am Brandon, and welcome to the podcast where we talk about most things Rick and Morty and some things not, but specifically Rick and Morty.
Mostly Rick and Morty. Like mostly. Like that's what the podcast is about. This is Interdimensional RSS, the unofficial Rick and Morty podcast. We're so happy to have you here. We're so happy to be back after a bit of a hiatus, a bit of a a break. I mean, how long has it been? How long has it been, buddy?
This break was manageable. This one was manageable, right? Because it ended up in December, around December time frame.
Yeah. Because just in time for Christmas and the snake episode, the snake jazz episode, and then here we are at the beginning of May with 5 brand new episodes headed our way, and we have one that we've already watched. If this is showing up in your podcast feed, if it's say, I don't know, Tuesday, and you open up, iTunes, and I'm putting a lot of pressure on Brandon to get this episode out quickly by saying it's Tuesday. But if it's Tuesday and you open this up and you're like, hey, there's a new Interdimensional RSS, that's weird.
Hey.
That's weird. What? There was a new episode? I had a Zoom meeting today, Brandon, because we're living in the COVID-19 lifestyle. And one of my coworkers is like, wait, what do you mean there was a new episode? I was like, brother, you got to get on the train. You got to get on the hype train, the story hype train, which is we are going to talk about that and much more tonight. But before we do, as always, we have a few things that we have to get out of the way first and foremost, and that's how you can get in contact with us. If you are new to Unity, the community of awesome listeners of this podcast, we want to connect with you. We want to know that you're listening. So make sure you're following us on social media over on Twitter at twitter.com/RickandMortyPod or on Facebook at facebook.com/RickandMortyPodcast. You can also send us an email, RickandMortyPodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear your suggestions about the show, things that you love, things that you're interested in, any questions that you have. We like to go over those at the end of the show. We are out on the interwebs over on Reddit, RickandMortyPodcast.reddit.com, or you can find Brandon especially over at RickandMorty.reddit.com with all of those pinned posts for all those watch. What do you call them? Like live watch? What do you call those?
Live episode discussion, and then you got the post episode discussion. It's very straightforward, Travis. You can't miss it. They're pinned.
Yeah. They're pinned. They're right there at the top of the page. And then, of course, you can find all of our episodes at RickandMortyPod.com. If you want to be in the in crowd, you can join us Monday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern Time over at youtube.com/apatheticenthusiasm or over at twitch.tv/apatheticenthusiasm. That's where we are live streaming the episodes. So maybe you're listening to this audio version and you're like, man, I want to see them record live. I want to be part of the show. We'll make sure that you're following those channels so that you can do that. And then, of course,
is he drinking Fanta, orange Fanta, or is he drinking wine? You don't know. He could be drinking both.
Is it a Gatorade? Is he drinking straight vodka out of a shaker bottle? You never know what it could be. But you can definitely support the show by going to apatheticenthusiasm.com/shop. That'll take you, that's the best link to take you to our TeePublic page where you can find shirts with our faces on them, as well as a curated collection of Rick and Morty merchandise, or support us directly at patreon.com/RickandMortyPod. So thankful to the people that still support us on Patreon. Loving us, loving the show. And that is it. That's it. We're done. Listen, your duty, your obligation is to buy merchandise. That if we've learned anything, go buy merch. And so that's very important that we get that out of the way. But thank you guys so much for coming back. Brandon, how you feeling? How you feeling after last night?
I feel good. I watched the episode no less than 4 times. One time while I was making guacamole for tomorrow, for Cinco de Mayo, which, by the way, this episode, it's gonna come out tonight. I'm gonna release it tonight. So just don't talk to me too much after the show, as you're wont to do.
All the people that hang out for the post show realize Brandon is going to be very focused on getting the episode out.
That's right. But yeah, I'm stoked. Ready to talk about it. We got a lot to talk about, a lot to deconstruct, and
yeah,
I'm thrilled for it. So,
without any further ado, then perhaps we should get into semi-pertinent news.
That's, I don't know what to do. That's I'm trying to do like a fiddle, but I don't know how to do a fiddle sound. Fiddle, 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 semi-pertinent. Fiddle, 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 semi-pertinent. Oot, 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 oot. Semi-pertinent news.
Yeah.
Welcome to Semi-Pertinent News with Brendan and Travis. That wasn't my best. I apologize for people who just started listening to this podcast and you're saying, what the hell is that? Well, I just got into the habit very, very at the start of the show. Just, long-time listeners, you know this is, you expect this kind of stupidity from me. But for those just listening, if you just tuned in, at the very start of this podcast, we're like, let's fill this in with music. Or in the meantime, we'll just have Brandon do something stupid. And Travis, for the longest time, was like, "No, we need to get the songs.
We need to get real music. We should grab cool Rick and Morty pocket operators and make sick beats for the show."
And we just didn't, because it's far quicker for me to just make it an ass.
Yeah. It's fun. People love it. It has a loose improvisational feel.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're knocking the rust off. We're getting back in the groove. But lots of, well, there's some news to talk about, some semi-pertinent news. And we've been discussing this first one for a little while now. We've had a couple episodes come out over the break. But the new show coming to Hulu exclusively starting May 8th, a little show called Solar Opposites, created by Justin Roiland, co-creator Rick and Morty, and I'm blanking on his Mike McMahon, who has been a longtime writer and producer on Rick and Morty, and they have joined forces to bring a brand new show. Brandon, have you seen any of the ads, any of the trailers for Solar Opposites that have been coming out a little bit more frequently as we roll up to the series premiere?
Yeah. I have seen the previews. It does look good. The animation looks great. I know Brian Newton had mentioned that he would have loved to have worked on the show. It does feel very Roilandish, and there's the scientist / hang out with a buddy seems very, very, very Rick and Morty-ish.
Yeah.
So it like maybe like a little too close for like that uncanny valley, but with cartoon characters. But I still look forward to watching it here. In all, however many episodes are being released at the same time.
Absolutely. Yeah. So by our next episode, we could be talking about the whole show. You never know. We'll see. One thing I can guarantee you is there will not be a spin-off podcast of this podcast featuring Solar Opposites. We ain't got that kind of time. So, guarantee. But we are excited about the show, and we'll definitely be catching that one. So that is coming out May 8th. Mark your calendars. It's very soon. It's this week. It's very soon. It's very soon.
Speaking of very soon, after we record this, after we're done with that, we're gonna be like, you know what, we're hungry, and to get food, what's the closest? The closest place to me is not a Wendys. It's actually like a farmer's market. Whatever. Wendys is pretty.
What
close.
A hippie.
No, like not like a classy farmer's market. Like somebody who's growing like fruits and vegetables on their porch, and
it's the guy that's got like a bunch of bags of oranges in the back of his pickup truck on the side of the road, and he's just like,
apricots.
It's farmer's market. This is just your truck. Nah, Look, I got a sign, sir. That's drawn on cardboard. This is not.
It's a camper shell, sir. Anyways, the Wendy's breakfast ad over Rick and Morty. You may have seen this multiple times. Well, actually, maybe not multiple times, but last night during the live airing. It's very similar to the Burger King commercial way back when.
I think you're thinking Carl's Jr. brother.
Carl's Jr. Yeah.
Yes.
Burger King.
The other burger place.
But very reminiscent of that. But that commercial, they drag Morty out of bed. This was just another one of those obvious capitalism plugs.
It was, but I loved it. I loved how they personified the different breakfast options available now, fresh to order at Wendy's. Not a sponsor. But yeah, I don't know. I thought it was a funny commercial. I will admit that it aired right before the show started, and I definitely thought it was the start of the episode. Did it catch you off guard?
It did, yeah. And I think we actually said to each other. One of us said, like, "Oh, hey, the episode's starting! Woo!" And then it cut away, and then it had a picture of people in front of a satellite dish at the Space Force, and then an Adult Swim, the black with the white text, and then just the start of the episode. But we can get into that
we watched the show together, via our podcast means, and then but yeah, you were a good 5 seconds ahead of me on your feed, so you'd be like, oh, okay, show starting, and then you'd mute yourself, and then I'd wait there for my commercial to end, and then the show would start for me. All right, so yeah, Wendy's paid Rick and Morty lots of money. That's that news. Final bit of
let's get into a bit of semi-pertinent news. Our friend Scary Terry Folds over there on Instagram, he's on Twitter. He posted a series of images, and I don't know if he did these designs. So if he did, that's bitching.
I'm pretty sure one of those images is a picture of him side by side with the creation of it, of something he made. So I gotta give him credit. I don't think he stole all these. I definitely think he's been diligently working.
Whoa. Designs in Animal Crossing are not stealing if you have the code for it. It's not stealing. I'm giving him credit because he was the first person I saw. Anyways, if you play Animal Crossing, you know that you can make designs for your clothing. And he made Rick and Morty designs. And I know, Travis, you made yourself a lab coat one time. I was like, oh, whatever, Travis, I don't care about you. But Scary Terry Folds, he did this. He made a Scary Terry version of himself, a Rick, a doofus Rick. He's
got an evil Morty. Yeah, with the eye patch. He made a wallpaper design that is the Mortys being tortured on that dome from the first Evil Morty episode. What else? He's got a ton of stuff. He's got he's got the Hulk musical commemorative T-shirt.
Snowball on a hat.
Yep. Lots of great designs. I believe we already shared it on our Instagram, which did I plug that? I don't think our Instagram is in our show notes. I'm going to blame you because you built the template for our show notes. But if you follow us over at Rick and Morty Podcast on Instagram, then you can see Scary Terry Folds. We reshared all of his designs. Go follow him. He's it's the biggest Rick and Morty fan. I mean, when it comes to following the rules of buying merchandise and spending money on Rick and Morty stuff, this guy takes the cake. And he's a good friend of the podcast as well. So go check out his stuff. And if you're playing Animal Crossing, get those designs, man.
Get them.
And check those turnip prices. Let us know. We want to know if you have a large spike in those turnip prices. Hit us up, RickandMortyPodcast@gmail.com.
Need to make them bells.
Gotta make them bells.
Speaking of making things, crafting stuff, I think that leads perfectly into our next segment. It's the Dan Harmon social media building stuff in his garage minute.
Bloop, blap, bloop, blip, blap, blip, bloop, 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 bloop.
Was that Mario World music, like Super Mario, but like they're in the water?
I don't know. I was trying to do an Animal Crossing music, but then I totally blanked on it. I should just sing it like Animal Crossing characters would. So it's like. Okay. Anyway, guys, if you don't play Animal Crossing, you think we're completely out of our minds right now. Dan Harmon, Social Media Minute. This used to be his Twitter bit, but he doesn't do Twitter anymore, guys. So he's really only on Instagram. Follow him over at Dan Harmon. He will block you if you're mean, so be nice. But this last week, just a couple of posts. He is still held up in his Los Angeles home with his fiance Cody Heller. So hashtag Heller Harmon Bunker Day ! We get to see a little bit more woodworking from Dan the Man, and if you see it there on the stream,
It's like he's staining.
He's staining. He's using what I believe is a I don't know woodworking tools. Yeah, he's got a sander. He's got other stuff. But he made and I'm backwards. But he made himself a legit crafting table, like an in real life crafting table from Minecraft. And it doesn't do it justice, but there is really intense music. And he thanks the stock music writer that he used for this. The title of the stock music is "Your Son Died," and that's the big reveal at the end of that one. So that's the real solid Dan Harmon Social Media Minute. Yeah, if you're into woodworking or into Dan Harmon, go follow him on Instagram, because that's pretty much the only place you can legally follow him these days.
Thank you for the legal following.
Just trying to stay safe, guys. Trying to stay safe.
True that. And that tops off our semi-pertinent news.
Yeah, if you guys come across a news, some sort of you guys, it doesn't have to be that pertinent. We have a very loose guideline here, but if you see a news story or something Rick and Morty related that you think we should feature on the show, make sure to send that to us, and it could be featured in this first segment, semi-pertinent news. But enough of that. We've spent way too much time, nearly 20 minutes into this episode. Yeah. We have new Rick and Morty to talk about. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for the main thing.
Dunk 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 main dunk 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 dunk. It's the main dunk 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 dunk. It's the main dunk 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 dunk. It's the main thing today.
Yeah. Hey, we have Rick and Morty to talk about, guys. What do you think about this episode? Was it great? Did you love it? Were you confused for the first 5 minutes? Me too. Brandon, Let's
do this. 5 minutes tops. Let's knock it out.
In and out. Simple 5-minute adventure.
Yes. Let's talk about this. We're talking about season 4, episode 6. Never Ricking Morty. Episode details. It aired last night. That would be 3rd of May. The 5th month of 2020, written by Jeff Loveness, who is writing the script for Ant-Man 3, by the way, directed by Erica Hayes, storyboarded by, and credit to Erica because she posted this on her Twitter, and so I just want to make sure that I give the proper credit to these folks too. Storyboarded by basically the entire storyboard team: Felicia Fuentes, Samantha Gray, Pat Keegan, Jason Werneski, Sanae Young, Roy Camacho, Ki-Hung Lim, and Ronald Rubio. So I just want to throw that out there to them.
Good on your pronunciation. I'm so proud of you.
Guest starring Clancy Brown and Paul Giamatti, to the two notable ones there. Do you know who Clancy Brown is, Travis?
Nope.
Mr. Krabs. That's easiest.
Okay.
Way to, yeah.
Okay.
He plays the initial guy who starts telling the Rick story.
Yes.
About the man in the white coat.
Okay.
And Paul Giamatti is Story Lord.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, our bronopsis, the synopsis that you will find if you are searching for this episode is choo choo, bruh. Catch this train, bruh. Solid stuff. Very, very good. We should have put 2 and 2 together. You know, I tried actually looking ahead for synopsis spoilers on upcoming episodes. They're not out there yet. I didn't see them. Couldn't find them.
Sometimes they pop out there. I'm surprised that this choo choo bruh wasn't out there, because like IGN, I forget the other place that had reviews of the episode ahead of time, like Tuesday, Wednesday of this last week. I didn't see any bronopsises in there.
Right.
But by the way, I did read the one of the reviews on Tuesday, and I knew generally kind of what this episode is about, like very, very vaguely, but I didn't remember enough of it to have that be a factor in my
be a factor in your guesstimation about what the episode would be about.
Yeah. I purposely turned that part of my brain off so I could go into it with an open mind.
Well, the little synopsis for us that I threw together haphazardly is that Rick and Morty have to escape a literal, figurative, literal plot device. It's a train. Listen, there's a lot happening here. I had a hard time baking this episode down into 1 or 2 sentences. Let's get into the discussion. This is an anthology episode. How are you feeling going in? Like, what were your initial perceptions of the opening of this episode?
Well, what threw, I think, a lot of people off, whether they're watching live or whether they watched on Hulu or whether they watched on an illegal streaming service somewhere, which, by the way, the Reddit mods are like, they had to keep deleting streaming sites over and over again online. You can just watch it on Facebook. Someone's showing on Facebook, I'm sure. But they didn't have an intro, right? There was no intro titles for the episode. And that was jarring. It felt a little jarring. I'm
trying to think of another time where the show has done that, where they've completely cut the opening sequence.
Yeah, I can't recall a time that they did that. And so what strikes me about that, aside from the jarringness of it, is that had to have been an intentional decision. There'd be no reason for them not to cut it unless they were short on time. But we know that after watching the episode, they weren't short on time because it felt like there was extra time at the end of the.
Yeah, it felt like it ended a little bit early. We were checking our watches and it was like, 3 minutes to midnight, and they were getting ready to show us scenes from next week. So yeah, it didn't feel. I don't know. Maybe that was due to ads and the amount of ads that got played or something like that, and it could have just been a programming thing. But yeah, I don't know. It was odd. I sincerely hope that they do not make a habit of that, because I happen to love the opening sequence of the show.
Yeah.
And I love looking for little Easter eggs and things in there as well. So we'll see if that continues or if that's a new change with the new episodes that we're getting.
And what further reinforces that it was intentional was, if you watch it on adultswim.com, it still doesn't have an actual intro. It still jumps right into the Rick and Morty.
Yeah.
In the episode itself.
Yeah. I think it could have been just maybe because the episode jumps around a lot and like initially starts off in an unconventional way for the show, that maybe it was a purposeful decision to not open the way they normally would with the show. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll find out next week when we get into the next episode. But right. Yeah, as we have mentioned before, this is an anthology episode. It is sort of this season's interdimensional cable. We talk about it every season. We got the Interdimensional Cable episode. We got the sequel. Then we had Morty's Mind Blowers, which was a new spin on doing the anthology type. And this was even further in. I don't know. It was. It took you by surprise. Like it took a minute for you to figure out. Like they didn't just do like a booty shaking intro. Like, yeah, we're doing another anthology episode. It took almost until the first ad break before you really understood that this was going to be not a conventional Rick and Morty adventure.
Yeah. I thought first, I love anthologies. Anthology shows, anthology comics. I love very short standalone stories that have a beginning, middle, and end. Cool, bite size. I don't have to dedicate 40 hours of my life to catch up on 3 seasons of Ozark. I don't need to do that because
that feels very specific. And I feel like whatever the Netflix situation is in your current COVID quarantine back there, I feel like maybe Ozark's involved, and I don't want to pick sides.
I watched 2 episodes of it. It's pretty good, but the 3 seasons is daunting of everything, right? Yeah. So when it going into it, I'm like, okay, it's gonna be anthology. It's gonna be a Morty's Mind Blowers / Interdimensional Cable, some kind of episode. So I'm all in on it so far. But you, me, a majority of Reddit and a lot of other folks, that first 10 minutes, and I think when Rick and Morty are the other characters, and then Morty is a chick, and then he takes off and deflates his boobs, right? And then it starts jumping around all over the place. Immediately, like, okay, all right, you know what? Let me not think about this too hard right now. Let's just go with the flow. Let's go with the flow. And see where it takes us. But yeah, it was like, oh, you know what? Don't even worry about it. Let's just enjoy this. For the first time around.
It is strange because there is, even though it is one of these clip show type episodes, they mention Interdimensional Cable twice. They call it out specifically in this episode, I think, as a way to reinforce that this is not a traditional episode. This is this season's version of Interdimensional Cable. But it has a narrative feel throughout it where you can make the argument all the way back to the first Interdimensional Cable where like there was a B plot in Interdimensional Cable with the alternate dimension glasses, and that's where Morty is talking to Summer about not being a planned pregnancy, and talks about himself being buried in the backyard and things like that. So that even that episode has a narrative throughout it, but it felt kind of hard to like figure out which pieces in this episode were conceptual and just like non-canon throwaways, and which parts were like, all right, am I supposed to be following this like story thread, or is this going to be thrown away in 30 seconds when it cuts to blips and chits or whatever?
Yeah. I like that you used the word canon, and we'll talk more about canon later on in the episode, I think.
Yeah.
But you use canon in the sense of what is self-contained inside this episode, not necessarily the larger Rick and Morty.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's there's a throwaway line by Rick later about non-diegetic, which is, I mean, that's kind of along those lines. Is canon to this narrative, not necessarily canon to anything else.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I interesting choice.
So with all of that said, this basically boils down to a lot of individual stories, a lot of individual clips, things like that. So I thought that the best way for us to sort of organize and wrap our heads around this episode was I just wrote them all out. I in a big old story roundup, we can talk about these as much or as little as we want. But I thought I would just hit these one by one. some of the stories that take place on the story train. And the first one, as you mentioned, was that acid vat guy who who was on a train with everybody else going to kill Rick. And we get a cutaway to Rick in an epic solo fight against an acid vat guy, and he has a bunch of arms and stuff.
Yeah, and then takes a little pill, has a third butt, farts 2 ways.
2 farts.
You know, I like that Clancy Brown is belittling this. Is people like, well, what do you? It's not dissolved yet. Well, pull the thing back up. What are you wasting time for?
We got a lot of attitude around here, like people that want to be dissolved in acid.
Yeah. The main thing with that scene is cool. Like, the action of Rick solo shooting is badass. But it's very vat of acidy when there's an episode titled this season, also written by Jeff, of the vat of acid episode. And so I rewatched the trailer that led up to the second half, and the vats of acid they don't look the same necessarily, but it makes me wonder, like, are you? I hope there's a tie there, or so it doesn't feel like you ran out of ideas so quickly that you also had a vat of acid guy, unrelated.
Yeah. He's only got like 4 different types of villain, and one of the 4 always has a giant vat of acid. It's just what he does. It's part of his style.
Rick has he has a rotation. He has a pattern. Like Morty gets every 10th adventure. Every 4th villain there's a vat of acid.
Yeah,
it's just a thing he does.
I mean, I thought it was a cool scene. Rick doesn't speak; he just communicates in farts. But otherwise, it was a good primer to kind of get you thinking about cutaways. And then we get what was the tease for the episode. This was shared on social media before the episode airs. I entitled it "Rick Saves Christmas," but this is the Planes, Trains, and Automobiles Christmas return with what's his name? Goombie.
Yeah, Goombie. Every time I hear Goombie, I think of there's those really crappy animations of like Donald Duck and Goofy, but his name is Gooby.
Gooby.
Spider-Man. Gooby and Spider-Man.
I think it's great that they're all sitting around in a train discussing the different ways that Rick saved Christmas. I think that the Christmas episodes of Rick and Morty are some of the greats. So yeah, I don't know. It's a nice nod to that as well. Then we start to understand the episode a little bit more. Tickets, please. The ticket taker rips his shirt off and exposes his gutters to Rick and Morty. And after the fight, he is his upper half anyway is smashed outside of the train, and he finds himself in a familiar place, Blips and Chits, where he basically takes off like a Roy helmet. And I gotta admit, up until this point, I was still like not exactly sure what was going on, and I was like, "Oh, was this really all just like a Roy simulation?" Like, it was very jarring for me, like the first time watching it, to be like, "Oh, okay, so all of that happened was just a simulation," but it was the conductor simulation. Wow, okay, it wasn't even with Rick and Morty. And then he rips it in half in front of his grandkids who are fighting about arcade food, and starts spinning about as his lower half is severed from his upper, and Rick seals off the story train with a sweet one-liner about his
tickets. Honey, I need tickets. Give me all the tickets.
Yeah, it's solid stuff. Yeah.
That little piece, it led into basically the security training video, which that piece. So the conductor tries, does that, gets sucked out, goes in half, and they seal it up. They find a continuity thing, and I've watched it multiple times, and I'm still like trying to conceptualize the continuity, the emergency continuity, coming down. I
The
haven't.
continuity tank that he's holding on to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't really fully grasped it yet, but I really want to sit there, and I'm sure somebody in the comments will help me out. But going into the security training video, that I think to me that was, well, I guess that's not the last kind of aside. Uh, every other kind of clip after this, with the exception of Floaty Bloody Man couple and the Floaty No Gasm Brotherhood, everything other than that, other than those clips, starts making sense, like in context to the rest of the
Right.
episode.
Right.
The security training video was like the last bit that was like, well, and Floyd Bloody Man, we're like, what the hell's going on? But once that was out of the way, I'm like, all right, here we go. I understand that it's really absurdist, and we're just anything's going.
Yeah, like them just showing up again completely unharmed, and then pulling out Dan Harmon's story circle as the blueprints for the train track, and all of that, like really sort of the meta discussion about them sort of breaking their own fourth wall, and seeing Floaty Bloody Man outside and talking about how he's I forgot the one-liner that he uses there. Anyway, that's where it really started. Like, okay, all right, this is not a traditional episode. This is an anthology, which takes us into our first act break. And then we get immediately after the commercials the Bird Person musical moment, which great to see Bird Person back on the show in true form, singing with Rick and flying through the air, which then cuts to a scene on the train with all these like people discussing the best musical moments that Rick and Morty have had. And if you look really closely, like behind the guy on stage, there's like Get Swifty like picture, and I think there might be like a tiny Rick playing, like, so there's like all these little like pictures drawn on the background, like he's giving a presentation about the best musical moments in Rick and Morty.
That's great. That's great. I didn't notice. There's a lot of those little bits of things in the background. Yeah, that leads into the Floaty Bloody Man couple, where the dude's just smoking some kind of drug and and exhaling through the snout on his head, and him saying that he doesn't have sex and he diverts his sexual energy to keep the world whole, and she's like, "Oh, that's
so attractive."
No, oh no, it's fine. Yeah, we'll just do it one time. Ending the world, as you know. And he's like, "Oh, sorry." And that brings us to the rest of the episode. Yeah, man. And so like the next one, when they come back from that,
they're on top of the train because they've just shot the conductor, right?
Yeah.
To end his suffering. Which brings me to two of my favorite bits from this episode, both of them from Morty's own mind. This is when they're trying to break the theme barrier for the show, and Rick insists that Morty tells a story. The first one that Morty comes up with starts with Mike Johnson and a good cup of coffee, and it's like very simply animated. I'm so hungry. I want cookies. Like, and then scorpions attack the house.
They're hungry. I'm hungry too.
It's just so good. It's very, very like Royland-esque. And then I love Rick's line after that where he's like, no, like I didn't expect it to be good. I just didn't expect it to be so in line with the theme of our show.
Yeah. And at that point in time, they're trying to break the thematic seal of the cars, and Morty was it was too close to the theme of the episode, which then led Rick into one of my favorite bits is the Bechdel test. Just Morty, do the Bechdel test, and I really like this part and we talked about it last night on the immediate post show, where it's, to me, it's just this perfect encapsulation of what a 14-year-old boy would put together for a two women, named women, talking to each other about non-men, and what would happen with that. And somebody asked Erica Hayes, they're like, hey, it's is it just me, or are they making fun of the Bechdel test? And Erica wrote, we were mocking ourselves through Morty. And I don't know if she meant like we're mocking ourselves, aka women, or if she's mocking themselves as writers, like the entirety of writers trying to build strong female characters and going so far to just simplify it to my special time, heavy flow.
Yeah. I think by us, I think she meant the show, collectively, the people making Rick and Morty, and sometimes the ways that they've tried to give them agency, but have fallen pretty flat.
Yeah. And they immediately follow that with that they have they're two men with penises and they have agency.
Guess who has two penises and all the agency? Yes, indeed.
Yes.
All right, so this gets us into a couple of collections of stories. I call these ones the quickies off the train. These are the glimpses that we get as Rick and Morty are fighting as the story lord, and being thrown out of the train and thus thrust into some different quick clips. The first one is I just called it Egg Escape Morty. This is something that showed up in the trailer for these 5 episodes that seemed like it could potentially be something really big, and then was really not much of anything. But I will say, and kudos to the animation team, the way that they transitioned with the action of, like in this one, Morty trying to slide under a door, and then that transitioned into him being pulled back into the train. The way that they did that between these scenes, amazingly done. Like fantastic stuff.
Yeah. Those transitions are worth the price of admission, as far as I'm concerned.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not an animator by any stretch, or an artist by any stretch, but those, similar to the season 4 premiere, Rick Die, Rick Pete, just there's certain things in animation that just like, God, that's so good, and that's so talented, and those transitions just like I tried pausing and slow mowing so I could see how they did that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just incredible to me. Of those clips, definitely, I love that they introduced Morty in Vietnam getting some kind of mind-bending drug, and then coming back to it, then Rick going someplace where he's created a drug, and he's hurt so many people, and then Morty's character from Vietnam comes back, who is now not in Vietnam anymore, and kills him. It's like, it's okay, nothing's real.
Bayonet stab. Remember the core truth that you're getting beat up on a train. Classic stuff. And then we move from that fist fight into Beyond the Fifth Wall. This is where the story lord has them captured, and we get a couple more quick scenes as he's tearing continuity straight out of the souls of Rick and Morty. The first one is a heartwarming scene where Summer goes off to college. And Rick is really touched by it. It's I like this because this is sort of the idea that, oh, these characters are gonna get older. They're gonna move on with their lives. Summer's not gonna be perpetually 16 forever. Morty's not gonna be a perpetual freshman or whatever. Like they're gonna age and grow up and change. And this is them kind of just being like, nah, I don't think we're going to do that. I think this is the only chance you're going to have at seeing Summer go off to college, because much like The Simpsons, they're going to just kind of stay the same for the 70 episodes or whatever.
What I I think we'll get through all these beyond the fifth wall kind of clips here, but I want to talk about it kind of overarching, right?
Sure.
Uh, all so we broke it down here, like the story roundup. We have like the kind of the not the ad lib or the tongue in cheek, the ones that are off kilter, the ones that are not really involved in the main story. Then you have Morty's stories. You have broke it down. Then we have Beyond the Fifth Wall, and Blips and Shits was kind of beyond the fifth wall-ish a little bit, but when he kept saying beyond the fifth wall, we all know what the fourth wall is. It's him talking to the audience. But
Right.
what is the fifth wall? And depending on where you look up, the fifth wall is that divide that is the actual artist and the actual audience, and them coming together to building things,
Hmm.
which they've commented on before, and so all this stuff behind beyond the fifth wall. Some are go off to college. Adolf Linkler coming back with a one dude who's like like getting punched into the alien vagina. Uh, the epic battle between Phoenix Person, the Dog Planet, Tammy, uh, all that, and then how the story ends. That's all. That's all like, hey, the fans all want this, and
Right.
because the fans want this, we're breaking down the fifth wall, and the writers are basically taking direction now from the audience, and uh, which is why Rick throws out the bit about like this could have is this canon? It could have been, right?
It could have been, yeah, but and it is really interesting because as fans, we tend to we come up with theories. We see characters that we really love and we want to see more of them, so we come up with ideas like, oh, well, they could come to play out like this way. Oh, maybe Evil Morty's doing this. Maybe like there's a huge multi-series arc where Evil Morty is this mastermind pulling the strings from the background, and and yeah, this was really just their way of being like, all right, all these things that you guys are trying to will into existence, here's what they'd look like. Now they're dead. Like, we're like, can we move on? There's a there's a line where Rick says, "Got all that metacanon shit out of the way, and now we can just be ourselves." I think it's a nice little just like put a bow on it. Let's move on from this and
Yeah,
and just do the show the way we want to do it.
yeah, like in the moment with Summer going off to college, Rick saying, or I can't tell if you're serious. Well, it's a natural human emotion or whatever it was, or a human moment, and which is not a character of him.
That's not Rick. Yeah.
But that would be like he grow. Ooh, he showed character growth. He showed actual character growth in that. That's what fans really want. That's what fans want for them, and this is not necessarily like pushing back against those fans. I think that's the kind of that's one of the reads on it. Like, like they're saying "fuck you" to the fans. I know there's a part of me that like, okay, like you guys are fucking with us, right? But I think this is like we're giving you kind of what you want, but let us give you what you want. Quit, don't try to pull that from us,
Right. Yeah.
because like if you like the show where it started, you're gonna like the show where we end up taking it.
Yeah.
Um,
Especially with Schraub's box of B plots. I mean, it can only go up from here, guys. It can only go
yeah,
up from here.
yeah.
We
There's no plot in this episode, you know.
we have two epic elements to round out the episode. The fact that Rick and Morty are saved by Jesus, and that all of the Christian friends come out at the end, and the fact that they really leaned into that as a way of showing that nobody wants to see that on television, apparently. Yeah, so that happened. And then the other religion that is most popular in the United States, consumerism. So we spent some time with Jesus, and then people obsessed with buying things. As we see Rick and Morty get saved and close the portal behind them, there is this awesome reveal for the train actually being a toy when they try to pull the lever on the console, and they can't hit any of the buttons, and they tear away that sticker. I just thought that was so wonderfully done as a way to be like, this is yet another sort of layer inside. And then we see the story train running its course around the Smith's living room as Rick and Morty are getting ready to settle down and watch some interdimensional cable.
Yeah. And then Jesus is like, I'm gonna do what I always do. Get the hell out of here. Get out of here.
Yep, and he breaks the train. Very interesting, and this came up a lot. I saw it on Reddit. I saw it in some of our post-show comments on Twitch and YouTube. Morty talks about taking the train back after it breaks, and Rick's like, "No, were you not listening at all? Go buy me another one. Nobody's buying anything with this virus going around." Very, very current and topical comment about COVID-19 and everybody being locked down. I would love, and maybe we'll jeopardize some of the followers we have on Twitter, but I would love to know where in the process that line was put in the show, and how recent it was that they made that edit. Because I feel like when the show was originally written, there's no way they could have known like where the country was gonna be at this time. So I am curious to see how that made its way into the episode.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Like, I'm not an animator, so I'm just gonna throw this out there. They probably had the body there, the scene there, right? And then they just had to shape the mouth to match whatever words were going in. Simple. So they didn't have to record. They didn't have to animate anything like too radically, but they can add a little bit at the end. I think they did that. They did that for another episode at the very tail end. Maybe Morty's mind blowers. Like, I don't know. It felt fairly current at the end of one of the episodes. It's like, they did that pretty quick.
Yeah. It didn't seem like a huge edit, but it was interesting that this show in particular does take a long time to produce. So for them to discuss something so current, like they were talking about like was it the season 3 finale where they were talking about like Minecraft and some other stuff, and I don't know, some of that stuff felt really like recent. Like Minecraft's been around for ages, but I don't know.
Compared to Morty Gets a Dragon, which is like a year and a half after Game of Thrones ends.
Yeah. All right, and then finally, we have that post-credit scene. It is the advertisement for the story train. Very well done. It kind of takes the entire episode and compresses it down into Rick and Morty playing with toys and their soulless action figures that they have. So yeah, that is pretty much the breakdown of everything we got to see in this episode.
Yeah. You talk about capitalism, and he's trying, like, I would say that all that capitalism stuff was there, obviously, without the virus. I think that virus line was tacked on.
Sure.
And that merchandise piece was juxtaposed against the rest of the episode, which is, hey fans, like, you trust us, we'll get good stuff for you. And then capitalism, merchandise, buy merchandise. Just, I love people buying merchandise. It's like,
your job is to buy things. Just buy things. For a show that like kills it with merchandise, but also has so much. You can buy Rick and Morty just about anything, and we'll just pan right up here, right, as we look at the shelf. But yeah, like, merch is huge to this show, and there's so much merch that you can get for Rick and Morty. So I thought it was interesting that they kind of just right on the nose there with the consumer culture that surrounds the show as well.
Yeah, where we feel bad if we're like, go to our Patreon, support us. It's fine. You don't have to. They're like, yeah, come on,
buy things.
There's kind of a just to see how far we can take this and see how much we can get away with. How much, who else is going to jump on this Rick and Morty train with this kind of joke through line? I feel like,
sure,
with Snickers and Wendys and Pringles and skull candy earphones and lamps. I don't know. They probably make like a comforter set. They,
Yeah,
with
there's not enough regular fabric though. For I want just some bulk fabric, some Rick and Morty fabric. I'm just
like
throwing it out there, just
Rick and
out into
Morty
the world,
with
whatever
Joanne.
comes back.
Joanne.
Joanne's, hook it up. Let's go. All right, it's time for some quick little bits. These are just little things that we noticed or saw throughout the episode. Weren't necessarily big storylines. But the first thing that stood out to me was in the first scene where they're in the bar car. There are a couple of beer taps on the bar, and one of them is in the shape of a Gromflemite, the original, Galactic Federation aliens. And I was like, oh, that's cool. We haven't seen that head shape in a minute. And then I looked at the name of the beer, and it was Killer IPA. And as I looked at it closer, I realized that in the details, that's not just any Gromflemite. That's our old man K. Michael, Crumbopulous Michael, getting a little bit of a callback with his personalized beer tap over on the story train.
Yeah, right next to a Snakehead IPA. I'm gonna not doing these in order, but do you talk about beer taps? There's also a fart beer that's in the end when Rick is in his non-canon
Professor Sanchez.
Professor
Yeah. There's fart on tap. You never know when you might need it.
One of my favorite little bits, very very little bit, and we. By the way, may the Fourth be with you today.
Yeah, happy Star Wars Day, guys.
Not only did we see Tammy fight with Summer briefly, getting that Star Wars, we had little Mr. Poopy Butthole, but he was the Emperor.
Yeah, the Sith Lord Poopy Butthole, right next to Evil Morty. That was pretty epic.
But let's add a third Star Wars-esque reference in there. And if you remember Star Wars Episode 1, and I know everybody does because it's everybody's favorite. It's Empire, then Phantom Menace, and then Revenge of the Sith. Anyways, Yaddle, Yoda's female equivalent was, I don't know if it was Yaddle necessarily, but it was a female Yoda-looking character in the background. Whatever species Yoda and Yaddle are, it was one of those.
Which reminds me, that is one clip that I did not reference in our story breakdown, is the Ice Queen. And Rick fighting, or I guess playing with the giant dire wolf. And all the elementals kind of hanging around the table. I am the representation of time. And that was a good one as well.
I did notice a couple comments here in Twitch, and YouTube. Look, if you want to follow along, you guys listening to the podcast, come join us every Monday night. Invited expert 6497, my buddy Omar, Emperor Poopy Teen is what he.
That's a solid name for him for sure.
Yeah, and then D-Squeeze mentions this that K. Michael beer and is the IPA, the Killer IPA, and who's he trying to kill? He's trying to kill Fart, and then Fart is a beer as well. So there's that.
That's a good connection.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I think that's most of the. I again want to reference the Story Circle. If you're not familiar with the Story Circle, this is a device that Dan Harmon has used for writing for forever, I guess, for a really long time. And he references it a lot. He's taught on the subject. But even in where Rick is pointing on the story, on like the train track, he's referencing specific elements in the Story Circle construct, and he's like, at this point we're gonna have to like redeem ourselves or something like this. I don't know. I just thought that how meta they got, and he's like, well, of course we're gonna take our own liberties. Like, we don't have to stick to this completely. I love how that's probably just like a conversation that happens in the writers' room where like they're like, all right, we get it, Dan. Like, we get it. Yeah, like your circle's great, but like we don't have to follow it exactly, right? Like we could diverge a little bit.
Yeah. I thought that was a neat little dig, but also, and then like while it's digging, you see bloody floaty man in the background that's spitting, right? Uh, so I think that's great, and uh, they talk about the return threshold, um, and uh, a couple. I have a picture of the circle up here. Get what they wanted, pay a heavy price. The steps 5 and step 6.
Yes.
But I think that's all great. And they mention uh, the non-diegetic, which is such a cool concept to me. Like when I was in cinema studies for like half a second, and if you're in cinema studies for half a second, you learn about diegetic and non-diegetic, usually around focusing on sound. Right, diegetic sound is sound that's within the in the context of a scene. Like if you are the character in the scene, you hear the music, it's coming from a radio, so it's diegetic. The music that an audience person hears who's watching the movie, that's non-diegetic. So those are really cool concepts. But then as far as narrative goes, diegetic versus non-diegetic, um, it's that stuff that this episode is just, it's a mind fuck. And
It is. It is.
and trying to piece together, like when he makes that, non-diegetic narrative comment, I'm like, oh god, I really want to break this down. But guess what? I had to make guacamole and I didn't get a chance to. So I really want to explore that again, just on my off time. And we may never talk about it again, but I just want you to know, I think it's a really great concept to look into. That and the fifth wall. I think those are kind of tied to each other, especially within this episode. Whatever.
So overall on this, before we jump into any other listener suggestions and short outs, how would you rate the episode in general? I mean,
we don't usually do that. Yeah.
We don't. Would you? Let's do it. Let's do it in terms of this being the fourth, anthology. Loose improvisation. It didn't have the improvisational feel, I think, as much. But how would you kind of stack it against the other? We'll call them interdimensional cable type episodes.
If we're going based off of how much I laughed, I think the anthology pieces of all the other ones are generally stronger. I think the Bechdel test is one of the best ones. Mm-hmm. The other little scenes, especially in the fifth wall portion, I think are really, really, really cool, and they're really interesting. And I would love to see those fleshed out, knowing that they may not.
Sure.
is kind of sad, but really that whole epic fight with Snowball and versus the cat mechs, and then that panning shot from at the Citadel of Rick's, or Citadel of Morty, whatever, going scanning across, you see all the Ricks, and you see the Meeseeks, you see all the Gazorp, and like that's really badass. Like I would love to catch that, but I think they'll be fine with whatever they end up choosing at the end of 70 episodes.
And they're going to do great things. I think that this episode shows that they're capable of creating epic conclusions and epic moments. It's just let's let them do it. Let's not try to create it for them in advance. Let's enjoy their creative process and the fruits of their labor. So.
Yeah. So what do I rank it out of those episodes? I would for what I look for in those episodes, I would probably put it. I don't want to put it fourth, but I put it fourth because it's not that what I fell in love with those first three. I guess.
Yeah. I think the improvisational part of some of those episodes really, to me, makes those episodes. When you can tell somebody was in a booth without a script, just like saying random stuff, or when they go really off like book and they're it to the point where they're not even like really performing anymore, but they leave it in and still animate it. Those breaks to me are some of the highlights of those episodes. So I didn't really feel like we got any of that. I feel like this was definitely an anthology, and it took a lot of really obscure ideas and jammed them all together, and I think it was really effective and a great episode. But I like that the show keeps trying to reinvent this idea, but I would love to see a few more of those moments that were like purely improvisational, and maybe like Morty's story, like his first story with the coffee guy and stuff. Like maybe that was just like just make up a story. Maybe that's what that was. But yeah, I liked this episode, but I would like to see a return to a little bit more loose comedy in a future iteration.
I agree. There's a lot of people think, a lot of people, I say a lot of people, like 5 people that I work with, they think, oh, hey, Brandon, he's totally spontaneous, or what is that?
Spontaneous.
Spontaneous. Spontaneous. Stupid. What an idiot. They clearly know I don't know how to say the right word. But anyways, they feel like I'm spontaneous. And what I've talked to them before is like, yeah, it's a lot of it is spontaneous, but it's spontaneous from stuff that I've like had just in me for a long time, and I'm letting it out in some way, shape, or form. So it's like it's not true spontaneity. There it is. It's not true spontaneity. It's like it's the illusion of it. In Interdimensional Cable, the first 2 episodes, they it was that kind of illusion of being spontaneous, because yes, Royland was just kind of saying shit, and then that was off the cuff, but the animation is what made the rest of it happen.
Yes.
And that's not spontaneous. People had to board that, and they had to animate that.
Yes,
and,
absolutely.
and so Morty's mind blowers in this one, there is that it loses that because it becomes too scripted, and it's like it's a difference. Like our show notes, like whenever I do show notes, I half-ass them, like here's a couple bullets.
Mhm.
And we kind of leave it to like, oh crap, I don't know what else to talk about because Brandon didn't fill any details. And then like you want to have those details, and so then we have that structure to it. In us, we have that kind of in between, now that we meet in the middle for that type of stuff, and so we can this feeling like it's spontaneous, feeling like it's fun, it has energy to it.
My kid asked me before we came down here to record, because she's starting to listen to podcasts now, and she's like, do you guys like script your podcast, or do you like just kind of make it up as you do it? And I'm like, it's right in the middle. We've got an outline, we have topics that we wanna get to. She's like, okay, so and she listed one of the podcasts she listens to, and I'm like, yeah, it's kind of like that. So anyway, it's time for us to close out the show with one of our favorite sections, listener suggestions and short outs. Thank you so much to everybody that's watching live right now, who is filling up the chat with tons of good feedback, including highlighted text, so that we know how to say spontaneous. I want to give credit to D Squeeze, who mentioned when we were talking about the Mike Johnson and Good Coffee clip, that Morty Jr. is actually in there. He's in a frame behind them up on the wall. Did notice that. That's a good catch. Good catch. It was good to see that little guy again. You have been all over the Reddits and the Twitters. Any highlights that stand out to you, Brandon?
Oh man, yeah, jumping out at me with that. A lot of people noticed, and we talked about this last night, the storytrain.com is not a real place. Although that site has been registered.
It's owned by Turner Broadcasting.
Yeah, last year, back in March. There are some folks who are not super happy. Again, I mentioned this earlier. One person, Z-Man, said this episode is basically that the writers were acknowledging they've run out of ideas. But other people are like, no, that's it's the writer saying, fuck your expectations, we have other ideas.
Yes.
So some of that, it's kind of split in the middle. Some folks are taking it personal in a certain way, and I think it's easy to go that route. if you let it. But know that like everybody who's working on this show, they wouldn't have a show if they didn't have you, me, all the fans who love the show watching. They wouldn't have a job if we weren't supporting them. And so there's no disdain there. They're just there's commentary that they're working on and still trying to entertain us. And I was entertained.
And there is that segment of the fandom who continues to, always respond on any social post from Dan or Justin, like whatever they're doing, with a stop doing this, go make more Rick and Morty or things like that. Many of those people have been blocked by Dan at this point, but it still continues to be a thing where, especially in those long off seasons, fans love the show, but they don't always find a healthy way to communicate that love to the creators that are producing the show for us. So yeah, I don't know, it's good stuff, but it's interesting. I don't think this was a slight at the fans, but more a commentary about those fifth wall expectations.
Yeah, and to close this up, the last thing I'll say about it, Dan Harmon has specifically talked about that. I don't know if he said fifth wall necessarily, but he talked about the fans and that wall breaking down of the fans dictating what the story should be. And they, we 3 Star Wars references in this episode alone. That's a big criticism of the sequel trilogy. Is it's not what the fans wanted. And Omar's in the chat, and he'll disagree with me fervently, but how Luke Skywalker ended his story, that's not what the fans wanted, and fans were not happy about that. And like, okay, when does the audience expectation stop and the artist's expectations allowed to flourish?
Yeah, that's a good point. Anyway, well, thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you're watching live, we appreciate that. If you missed the live recording of this, but you still want to see the video version of it, you can catch it over on YouTube, youtube.com/apatheticenthusiasm. You can see this as well as all of our other podcasts and some D&D adventures and lots of other things. So head on over there. You can subscribe. Also, if you're an audio podcast listener and maybe you're new to the show, maybe you've just been assimilated into Unity, why not go over and leave a rating or leave a review over on iTunes. Apple Podcast, I guess. I keep saying iTunes. It's been Apple Podcast for like 2 years. Jeez, what a scrub. I'm getting back into form, but you guys can leave a review. You can let us know what your favorite one-off story from this episode was in a rating over on Apple Podcasts or whatever podcatcher you happen to use. And then come join the party. We are gonna go and do our video only post show right now as we close out this episode. So you don't want to miss that. You can join us next week for that stuff. Brandon, final thoughts on this episode.
Final thoughts. One final shout out. I said I would say it again. Shout out to Erica Hayes, Jeff Loveness, all the artists and actors, all those folks. Because God,
as soon as the bosses let you, please come talk to us. We want to talk to you guys.
Look, the sooner you come on the show is the sooner I stop liking your tweets. Okay, that is a Brandon promise. That is a Brandon guarantee. I'm being completely spontaneous right now.
Spontaneous. Final short out, and you get the short out on the actual podcast. Christopher 1993 has followed us on Twitch. Thank you, Christopher, for doing that.
That's right. And hey, everybody, next week, brand new episode. This next episode by Brian Jordan Newton, friend of the podcast, where we are talking about Primordius. So stay tuned. Come join us again next week. If you're watching the episode live on the East Coast, 11:30 p.m. Eastern, then we will be there directly after the episode. And if you missed that, well, hell, you can hang out with us the next night, Monday night, where we will record live. So join us, won't you? And yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah.
See you later.
Play us out, Sam.
There it is. There's the music.
Bye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Not you guys. No, you guys stick around. You guys, we aren't going anywhere. That's just for those. That's just for those schlubs that only listen to podcasts. They're not the ones that put in the time and put in the work.
Schlubba lubba dub dubs.
Those schmlubs.
The schlub.
Schmangela?
Schmlonica. Chelsea and I, my wife that was watching, we couldn't remember what all the names were, and I was like, Schmlonica? She's like, no, there's no Schmlonica, there's no Monica on on Who's the Boss. I'm like, Schmlonica. She's like, no, there's no Monica. I don't know. Schmloni? That's one. Tony. He's the boss.
Tony.
In that episode, in that show was
Schmantha? Is it Schmantha?
Tony was he the boss, or was it saying like did you ever find out who the boss was in that whole series?
Are you asking this like a legitimate question?
Yeah, I didn't want it. Was Chachi? I don't know.
There is a great episode of Community where one of the teachers teaches a whole class on who is actually the boss. And Abed like completely refutes him and like gives this whole presentation about who the boss actually is, and then you figured out who the boss is and all this stuff. It's great stuff. It's great.
You would think to yourself listening to this, you're like, oh, obviously that's where Brandon got that gag from. But you would be wrong, because I've watched a total of 2 to 3 episodes of Community. Yes, I know. Look, it's daunting. We talked about this already.
6 seasons in a movie, Brandon.
It's daunting. I'm just saying, Ozark. All right, it's pretty good.
I'm gonna be honest. I haven't watched. I've watched, I think, all of Dan Harmon's. Well, no, I know that's not true. I've watched most of Dan Harmon's episodes of Community. I have not fully caught up on Community either, but it's a good show. It's good. It's quality stuff.
Yeah.
How are you guys doing? Christopher. I'm trying to. Are you on YouTube? Did you somehow follow us on Twitch through YouTube? Like I'm not sure how that worked. No spoilers. No.
Oh yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I'll have to find out in a minute. Anyways, thanks for following Christopher in 1993. Time traveling. Hey, I dig it. Schmlangela, Schmlam, Schmloni, Schmlona, and the weird blonde kid. That's I think you get. Yeah. So yeah, I like that. I like that episode. I think if you, because I'm sure the Squanch has something on it. I'd be interested in what they have to say, because I feel they're probably closer to writers than you and I are.
Closer to being writers, or like closer physically to writers?
No, not physically. Like closer in the sense that they do a lot of web content, and they are around people who are writers. And maybe that some of that stuff clicks more to them. The only writers that I know are Matt, but he writes the news, so he doesn't count. Sorry, Matt.
Sorry, you don't count.
You don't count. Go to hell. And then my brother-in-law, who went to school for screenwriting, but he's not a writer.
I thought about those Squanch dudes as well watching this episode, but it was for a completely different reason, and it's because I and this is not any ill will. I don't listen to the Squanch personally, but I've listened to a few episodes, and they seem to focus a lot more on the bigger picture type stuff, the theory crafting, the philosophical elements of the show, and read a lot deeper into the meaning behind certain things that you or I might just blow off as a gag or a throwaway joke. So I'm curious, like, how they're going to interpret that fifth wall element of things, where there are times when the writers have been very blunt, like, no, that was a throwaway, that was that was just a bit.
Broderick Cat.
Yeah. What'd you say?
Broderick Cat.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I'm with you there. And we didn't get too into theory crafting, and actually we didn't at all. But I've said it before, and even like when we're talking about the episode titles, right? We're looking at content, and we're just like, yeah, sure, let's speculate. But I don't like theory crafting too much. One, because I don't like being wrong. But two, if I'm thinking of it, then that probably means they've thought of it, and that they're probably going to go in a different direction with a room full of people who are paid to write things, and bring something unique to the table, right? And so that's kind of why I tend to go away from trying to theory craft, because I know I'm going to be wrong because of that. And so when they do the fifth wall breaking stuff, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with just seeing the glimpses of it, because I'm like, cool, that is what I thought of. That would be cool. If that's cool, what the hell else they got up their sleeves?
Right. Yeah. And it's interesting, the characters that they choose to have, literally pinning Rick and Morty up against a wall, with evil Morty being at the center, all the rest of the Citadel behind him, all of the Meeseeks, which people love the Meeseeks, but they're this thing that I feel like the writers can't get away from. They've incorporated them into more episodes, but it's like almost like there's not enough. Like, there can never be enough Meeseeks.
Yeah.
And then I don't know, they just needed another big mob, so they grabbed the Gazorpians, and they're like, yeah, let's throw them in there.
Yeah. When we talked about that, the episode title speculation, we talked about the trailer when the boys are back in town trailer, and I talked about how exciting that sweeping shot of those individuals, that army, was, how cool that was.
Mm-hmm.
And going back to that trailer, all at least like 80% of that trailer is in this episode, all establishing. That's what a fucking trailer does, is it builds hype for things that you're expecting out of the series, and it was all right there.
80% of that hype was this episode. About 10 to 15% of it, I'm confident, is the next episode that we're gonna get. So, like, how much of that? Like, I feel like there's at least like almost 2 episodes worth of stuff that we didn't see almost anything of in that trailer. So I don't know, that's really exciting to me. I like not knowing everything that's coming up.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Alex, for your tummy, and the number of Korean chicken wings that you have consumed. Good luck in the morning.
Good luck. Godspeed to that. So I did watch the trailer for everybody who's watching. You've seen the trailer as well, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about the 80%. It's percent. We didn't actually do the math of time, but there's maybe 2, maybe 3 episodes in that trailer. Like all the I say Gundam suit, but like the power suit type of stuff. That episode seems to be tied to the same episode where Summer sends aliens after them.
Yeah,
that might be the Primordius. It might not be.
If you look at the aliens that are around Summer, I'm pretty sure they have the face huggers on them, and I will go so far as to pull it up while we continue talking.
All right. Okay.
Because now we're in a visual medium now, so now we can do this.
And then there's one or two other bits in that trailer. One is like where it's Morty and he's having something sucked into him or sucked out of him. He's like his eyes are bulging and some kind of pink ectoplasm.
Oh yeah, that really reminded me of the death crystal, like kind of, but in a different way, you know.
And then the vat of acid. The vat of acid episode.
All right, let's see if we can bring this up for you guys. So doop 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 doop. Keep talking. What's going on in the chat?
I'm talking to Alexander Richmond about his Korean chicken wings, and I'm asking if I can have some. He says they're amazing, maybe too amazing, and I would like to try some of these. So if I'm asking him if he can send them to me digitally.
Ooh, digital chicken wings. I'm all for it.
You know what? In this day and age, who couldn't use some digital chicken wings? That's right, digital chicken wings brought to you by the Tyson Corporation. Look, Tyson, there's too many people in those factories gutting and yanking them feathers off them chickens.
All right, Brandon, I got the video. All right.
We got to talk about this Tyson chicken, right? They're all getting that virus in there. They don't need the virus in the Tyson chicken factory.
We don't need that chicken virus. All right, let's watch this. Let's watch this trailer together, guys, and see how much we've already seen. This is the Stubbs barbecue sauce ad. Simple spices, but the main ingredient has always been the music. CB Stubblefields. Okay, I can skip the ad now. Boom. All right, so right there, opening shot is sweeping over the crowd, and then we get this Rick Pewter and the power suits. And this is like a bulk of this trailer. But yeah, look at these guys in the background of these power suits. They've got the top snouts, which I mentioned last night. Those top snouts, same people that were in the floaty blood man. Yeah, but these guys have face huggers all on them. Yeah. And then
here's the plan. Put this back on your face.
More face huggers, which are in the scenes for next week.
Okay, now it's dead.
Okay.
Little bit of last night.
I hate this. I hate all of this.
More face huggers.
It can only help.
We're using some of those acids. You gotta
more last night.
If anything goes wrong, which it won't, jump into the same vat of acid I jump in.
Gotta be from the vat of acid episode. Jumping into the same vat of acid as me. That's
gotta be.
It's gotta be. It's too on the nose.
Okay.
It's gonna be a twist.
Wait, what?
It's gonna be a twist. That's in this next episode of these alien ones.
I think. Okay, there was Summer. We got to go back to her. But even in that spaceship, I think that was the same sort of environment that these face huggers are in. And here we can see Summer is got the same face huggers around her. So, guys, like, I think we've really only got about 2 episodes worth of content in here. A couple of these little cutaways with the SWAT team and Jerry, them literally falling into a vat of acid. Those are such like one-off clips. But yeah,
they could be from any episode. They could be from the B plot of next week's episode.
That's true. That's true. And then we got Jerry with his dreams, his honey dreams, and that's it. That is it, you guys. So that is your trailer breakdown for The Boys Are Back in Town. I'm convinced we've seen only 2 episodes of actual continuity, a couple throwaway lines from the Vat of Acid episode. But and now people are freaking out in the chat. Did they only get 2 episodes done? Are we gonna have a crazy mid-season break? I don't think that'll be the case. But yeah, I think they're keeping some stuff a little bit closer to the chest. Not sharing everything, which I think is great.
Yeah, they didn't give everything away in the last trailer leading up to the first half, because I was way wrong on them predictions, yo.
Well, it's what we do. It's what we do.
Yeah. let me do a little rap about my messed up predictions. Yeah. No, I'm not really going to.
Oh.
Sorry.
I'm so used to listening to Harmontown and catching up on Harmontown that I just expect people to break into a bad rap at any given time.
Well, there's nobody with backing tracks for me. I really could just plug in I don't have batteries for it, but I could plug that into the Roadcaster. And
your pocket operator?
Yeah, my pocket operator.
I feel like we owe it to the people to build us some beats in the pocket operator, and just to use at random even.
So much stuff going on about top snouts. Pickled top snouts, spontaneous. If there's a spicy version, pineapple jalapeno pickled snouts. Last of the Mohegans.
We don't have an apathetic enthusiasm this week. We won't have one for another month. And many of the folks that are here are used to our crazy banter in AE episodes. I want to know how you guys are doing, how you're holding up in quarantine, if you're back to work, if where you're living is reopening, if you're staying home. But I'll let you guys know an update for our family this week, and where we're at on COVID teen progress. My wife bought the supplies to make her own pickles today. So that's what we've reverted back to is making our own pickles. I guess, I don't know, artisan pickling could be a thing that we get into. I don't know, could be fun. I like spicy pickles, and I don't feel like you can find like as many like good spicy pickles. So maybe that's something I just make myself.
Alexander Richmond mentions that our Twitch notification tells us it's game night every time we stream. That's good.
Brandon throwing me under the bus because I got the promotional pocket operator, the first edition Rick and Morty pocket operator, and Brandon had to buy his because I sent an email to their publicity department, and we're still talking about it. It's paying off for them. We talk about it all the time. Yeah, and these things are crazy fun. Like, if you have never used a pocket operator, they're a good time. They're super convenient. I have the same batteries in mine from like ages ago too.
We talk about you talk about sending an email to them about that, and usually I send the emails to people because I'm just like, fuck it, I'll just send it an email to
whatever game company. Yeah, I'll just send them an email. They're coming out with a Rick and Morty game, and then you end up with like a whole stack of Rick and Morty board games.
Yeah. Which I don't play because I have 3 people in my family, and one of them's not old enough to play those hard games. And then you get a then you email the pocket operator guy, and you're not saying you're not a musician, because you can be, but you're not the one who plays.
But I'm not the musically talented one of the two. And I'm like if they were like, all right, throw this tomato at the one who's more musically talented, you're getting that tomato 10 out of 10 times. Yeah.
I'm about to respond about kimchi. I prefer kimchi when it's cooked.
Interesting.
I don't know if you knew that, Travis. I prefer kimchi when it's cooked.
I don't prefer kimchi. Period.
I don't like kimchi really when it's cold. But if it's cooked and it doesn't feel nasty, doesn't feel like cold, rotten cabbage. It feels like it's cooked cabbage with spices.
Okay, I could see that. I could see that being a better thing.
There's also you can also put it in soup, and that makes it taste pretty good.
Okay.
Again, all things I prefer to just cold kimchi. And if I do eat cold kimchi, I grew into it a little bit after I left Korea, which is odd. Um, so I don't mind it, but I do like there's like cucumber kimchi. It's
Mm. Also, you eased your way out of Korea by being in Hawaii, which has probably just about as much kimchi and other, Asian style foods,
That's true.
there on the island as well. So yeah, that's where my daughter fell in love with it. She would like get kimchi all kinds of places out there in Hawaii.
I'm sorry. I'm not laughing at your kid liking kimchi. I'm laughing at Matt's comment. I prefer kimchi when it's Kim Basinger circa 1990. You talking about like The Getaway with Alec Baldwin, or are you talking about Cool World with Brad Pitt?
Cool World classic. Was that Brad Pitt or was it Val Kilmer?
No, that was Brad Pitt, man. Maybe you're thinking of Batman.
Batman, was it Batman Returns?
Oh, not Batman. It's not Batman Returns. No, Batman Forever.
Oh yeah, that's it. That's the one.
That's with Nicole Kidman, I believe.
Jeez, there've been so many Batman movies.
There have been. R10 and X talking about teenage engineering. Hell yeah, hell yeah. Bought a Behringer TD3. Oh, nice. I'm getting my tax return at some point in time once all the Trump checks stop going out. But I think about like, what do I want to spend my money on? I've been thinking about buying new electronic drum heads because the pads that I have for all my drum heads are just hard plastic. So every time you hit it, it's like thunk 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 thunk. But there's these Roland mesh drum heads that give you a more realistic feel when you're banging on them drums. And I also might get another drum module because like if you have like a keyboard and you hit like change the sound to drum, it's like like very 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 electronic. Like there's no like reverb.
Sorry.
Yeah, it sounds cheap. My set isn't that bad, but you can tell it's an electronic drum set. So if I get a better drum module, it'll be
Alex Richmond thinking you're gonna play steel drums. Yeah. Gotta turn it around. All right.
It's fine.
I feel bad because my son got a drum kit.
Oh yeah.
And I taught him the one beat I know on drums.
What is that?
I don't know what it's called. It's when I hit the hi-hat like this, 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4, and then I hit the bass drum like every fourth time and the snare every third or second time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes I'll hit the bass drum on the 3 and the 4, and it really gets them fired.
Oh my gosh! Get that? It's almost syncopated.
So I gotta find a good like YouTube series or something to teach my kid how to play the drums.
Yeah, you do masterclass. There's so many masterclasses out there.
Yeah, because I've got all the money to spend on masterclasses. Are you drinking Tang, Brandon?
I'm not drinking Tang.
No, it's Pedialyte.
I'm drinking Fanta, orange Fanta with vodka in my groomsman mug that I have from my brother.
All right.
Yeah. If you really must know. You want to know that story.
Brandon has bizarre drink combinations sometimes. If Brandon opened a bar, I think the bar would be called Whatever I've Got. Whatever's on hand.
Brandon's whatever I got. Come on in. And, I don't know. You order something, you're gonna get something.
Do you want some gin and olive juice? Yeah, we'll call it a martini. Sure. I don't have a shaker, but I got this old boot.
Come on down to Brandon's. Whatever I got.
Cabernet and Pediasure? Why not? We'll give it a shot. Oh, and don't forget, I've had these peppers in this bottle of vodka for 2.5 years at the back of my cabinet. I forgot I had it. We'll mix Bloody Mary with it. Don't threaten me with a good time.
Don't threaten me with a good time. Hey, come on down to Brandon's. Whatever I got. Hey, Brandon, honey. We've got some pear vodka in the back of the fridge.
Cool. Do we got any Dr. Pepper?
Come on down. Try it out at Brandon's. Whatever I got.
Now you know what it's like to drink with Brandon. Yeah.
I mean, it's true. It's true. Last night, before I knew that I had orange Fanta, I have this Polar 100% natural seltzer, lemon, calorie free. And I was like, what can I add to this? You know, maybe I'll add some tequila to it, and then an extra spritz of lime, and maybe like a splash of grenadine. I didn't think of that. Didn't get there.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, you can't. He's a creative person. He can't be limited by your conventional ideas of cocktails, guys. He's an artist, and
if you go watch a lot of documentaries about creatives, I just watched a documentary about Tom Savini. Do you know who Tom Savini is, Travis?
I feel like I've heard that name.
He's a very famous special effects artist.
Okay.
Lots of horror films. Anyways, I watched a documentary about his life the other day, and he grew up in a poor family, and he attributes him growing up in a poor family to just being able to use whatever's around to be creative and make things like on the fly, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And basically that's how I am with alcohol. You know, like when I was a kid, you know, I had to make up stuff, right? Because
it was whatever he could find in the street, back alley behind a 7-Eleven.
I think all kids who are sneaking alcohol can attest to this pain where, you know, your parents they try to get sneaky, right? And they're like, let me put a little line on the Seagram's bottle so I know how much that I have next time I go in there, and if that line's not there, oh, I know someone's been sneaking some Seagrams. Well, you gotta be creative, you know. Add just like a dash of water, but because, you know, like, and pour it in the glass, put a little bit of water in there, maybe, you know, just to even it out. But that means you don't want to drink like that small. You got to mix it with something. Well, you know, what are you going to mix it with? I don't know, whatever the fuck's in your house. That's not alcohol.
Whatever, you know? I got.
Whatever I got. You got some. You remember those like little juice cartons, and it's like the really poor.
Remember them? I think I have them upstairs in my refrigerator.
Yeah, so you're still poor. Yeah, that's great. You know, you undo the thing and you pop it out. It's like purple stuff. I don't even know what. Is it supposed to be juice, or is it just?
Oh, are you talking about like the plastic jugs?
Yeah, like the small ones.
Yeah, like the little barrels. Like, yeah.
No,
I don't have those. Now we only have organic juice because my wife does the shopping. Yeah, I'm not that poor, guys. Come on. I could see you just like grabbing whatever was in the Kool-Aid pitcher that week, or, you know, whatever you could find.
Yeah, whatever I find. Let me take this step back. You know, it's underage drinking is not cool. Okay,
not cool. We don't endorse it. And I can say that from experience because I did not drink when I was underage.
I did. My you know, I'll say the story for when my mom is back on the back watching us live. But yeah, no, I didn't drink too often. Actually, there was this a family friend has a band. He plays music in a band. And still plays shows. But every year he used to have this place out in the Mojave Desert, and they would go out there. They play music out in the middle of nowhere, just all night long. It was just such a blast. And I went there. I was 15. I went with my dad, and um, I yeah, he got a beer from the keg, and I was like, "Oh, can I have a beer?" And he's like, "Sure." I'm like, oh shit. And so I drank beer that night. I had a bunch of beer that night with my dad, right? And it didn't taste good to me then, but I
Yeah,
still,
yeah.
because it's just what you do. So a couple months later, I we had like a day off from school, okay, and it was like one of those like teacher school days off, and my mom didn't know about it. And all right, I'm gonna sneak out of the house, and I'm gonna go drink with my friends. And I had this trench coat, right? And I was it was nighttime.
You lived in LA and you had a trench coat?
Yeah, 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 yeah. I'm sneaking out. I get the vodka, put it in my trench coat, open the door, and the dog starts barking, right? Look, I'm not the smartest sneaker back then. The dog starts barking. I'm like, the dog stopped barking. Cool. I'm home free. Not putting together it's probably waking people up, whatever. So I get halfway down the driveway, and my mom comes out and she's like, Brandon, where the fuck are you going? Uh, to the street. um, and then she sees what I have. So it's like, what's under the jacket? Like a bottle of vodka, whatever. And then to me, I'm like, this is gonna get me out of trouble. This is gonna get me out of trouble. Like, Dad let me drink with him.
So now you and Dad are in trouble.
Yeah, yeah. I don't actually know what happened to him for a while there, but she was not thrilled with
So
him.
I just want to stitch this story together and go a little meta on it. So you're telling me you had what would have normally been a school day,
Yeah,
but you didn't have school that day. And
right.
so your grand scheme to sneak alcohol out of the house
Mhm.
was to put on a trench coat and stick a handle of vodka under your trench coat instead of getting dressed to go to school and putting booze in your backpack and just leaving for the day. Like
Yeah,
you,
yeah.
like you,
Why you can't drink during the day, man? What am I, an alcoholic?
well, not then.
No, well, so
Oh, so
uh,
you were doing this at night because you weren't going to have school the next day.
yes, yes, and my mom didn't take me to school, so she didn't know that I wasn't gonna be at home, right? Like, she didn't. I was gonna sneak out, and the details are hazy now, but I was pretty sure I was gonna meet up with my friend Chris and Brian. We were gonna drink all night, and then I would walk to school, or I'd skateboard down to school, whatever. Um, and so my mom wouldn't have been the wiser, but that's what I recall. Probably what happened was like, yeah, of course, I'll just be home by 4 in the morning and sneak right back in. No problem.
No problem. No one will be the wiser.
Uh,
Um,
Matt saying Chris Tucker. No, not Chris Tucker. Funny story about Chris Tucker is, I've got in trouble with so many friends back then for either alcohol, or because Chris and Brian, by the way, I was not allowed to hang out with them anymore. And I was in my first band ever with them. I played bass when I first started playing an instrument, and they kicked me out because they're like, you aren't good, first, and then second, you can't hang out with us because your mom sucks. Um, but Chris Tucker, a year before that, I went to his house. This guy Chris, not Chris Tucker from the movies,
not
but
Chris Tucker.
that's Chris Tucker. I went I went to his house, and he handed me a cigar, and he's like, "Hey, hold on to this cigar." I said, "You got it, man." Put it in my pocket, put it in my jeans pocket, right? And uh, then the next morning, I was leaving his house 'cause I spent the night at his house, and he's like, "Hey, what happened to that cigar?" I'm like, I checked my pockets. I'm like, "Oh shit, I don't see the cigar anywhere. I don't see the cigar anywhere." He's like, "Oh shit, yeah, it's probably somewhere around here." So I go home, whatever, blah, blah, blah. A couple days later, I go to school. I get home. My mom's picking me up from school, and I get in the car, and she's pissed. I don't know what she's pissed off about. But she's like, Why'd you have a cigar in your pocket, Brandon?" I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about." "Why'd you have a cigar in your pocket?" I don't know. I don't know anything about a cigar. Like,
So now I pause. Did you
uh,
at this point legit forget that there was ever a cigar in your life, or were you backpedaling trying to cover for your friend?
totally backpedaling.
Total.
In my head, I was like, "What? I checked that pocket." I know it was my right pocket, my right front pocket, and I had put the cigar in there, holding it for Chris. And yeah, when I checked it again, maybe because I was underage drinking and I didn't notice, it
You
was not
literally
there.
couldn't feel your legs at that point. You're like, I don't have pockets. There's
Yeah,
nothing here.
and I was a hoodlum. You're lucky you didn't know me back then. I was like
Yeah,
one time
no,
we had
we would not have associated with each other.
we had
Actually,
smoke.
I associated with quite the eclectic mix of people from all walks.
We had we had
Um,
we had we had smoke bombs one time, and I threw we were in his front yard, and I lit a smoke bomb, and I threw it. I threw it to go into the street, and it landed in his brush, and then, his front lawn caught on fire. We went trying to put that shit out. Um,
uh,
Firefighters, yeah.
yeah, Alex Richmond says I owe a drinking story too. I don't have that many, but I do have one interesting night. Me and a group of friends decided to go down to Six Flags in Texas. And so we were gonna spend the day at the old amusement park there, riding roller coasters, having a grand old time. And a good friend of ours, the Champ himself, John Caulfield, resident DM and player of D&Ds here on the channel, he was responsible for booking the hotel room in Dallas. So there were four of us going, myself, John, a friend of mine, JB, James Brown was his actual name, and then a guy that just needs to be known by Dornetto. And Dornetto was a burly guy who could certainly hold his liquor. And we all went and rode roller coasters and had a great time until like it started like raining or something, and we had to like leave kind of early. So we're like, oh, we'll just go to the hotel room. We had a good day. We get to this hotel room that John picks out, and it is the skeeziest, like he did not splurge on this hotel room at all. It listed that it had a pool. We drove up to the front. The pool was like a 10-foot circle that was filled with dirt and had grass growing out of it. So like cheap hotel room, like 2 double beds, and nothing to do. But there was a liquor store right across the street. So Dornetto's like, I got this. He goes over, he comes back with a case of Bud Light, which we proceed to finish in probably under an hour. And people are in various stages of consciousness. And it's at this point that Dornetto decides to challenge me to a game of quarters.
Mm.
And I learned that Dornetto was like, if there was an Olympic sport for playing quarters, he would be a medalist. He was legit bouncing this quarter off a table in the middle of the room and landing it on like a glass on the opposite side, and requiring that I finish my beverage. You know, if he pulled that act off or whatever. I drank more that night in rapid succession than I think I have ever, and it is the one and only time where I have actually vomited due to alcohol consumption. I've come close, but one and only time where I was like, I am too drunk, and I have. So the night dies down, everybody's going to sleep, and I lay down, and the entire room is just spinning, and I'm like, I mean, I could probably fall asleep, but I'd sleep a lot better if I stopped this room from spinning. So I offloaded a significant amount of Bud Light, and then slept like a champ. And I woke up the next day. Nobody knew that I'd puked or anything, but that was my first, and only time I've puked. Every other time, and I've gotten pretty sloshed in other occasions. Not my most mature moments, but I don't know. I go back to when I turned 21 because the first time I had a drink was on my 21st birthday, not because I was there was I don't know why, like I grew up around a lot of people that drank a lot and stuff, and so there was a point in my adolescence where I was like, I'm never drinking, I'm just gonna not do it, I don't need that. And then I was like 20 and all my friends were 21, and I was like, well, maybe I could drink a little bit. And so then on my 21st birthday, they're just, feeding me drinks, and I'm just kind of just drinking. And they're like, how you feeling? I'm like, pretty good. Yeah, this one's all right. This one's good. So I didn't really get like super smashed or anything. And that's when I found out my metabolism was pretty good when it came to alcohol. So
Yeah, man, that's crazy. We're opposites in so many ways. One of the ways,
so many ways.
The
dark shirt, light shirt, glasses, bald. It's
zero to vomit. There's
there's a story where Brandon and I are camping on a beach in Hawaii, and we're cleaning through a case of PBR, the camping man's beer, and both of our families have gone to sleep in the tents, and we're just enjoying the fire and a good conversation, and then you just like get up, walk next to a tree, sit back down. Anyway, so
yeah,
good times.
And when I think what happened there was here's my philosophy on drinking and throwing up. Kind
also,
of like what
real quick timeout for anybody that came to this show for the return of Rick and Morty and have stuck through 2 hours of us talking and are watching this back on a replay. Welcome to the family. We're glad you're here. We love you, and you guys are awesome. All right. Go ahead, Brent.
I think what happened here is just as like the first and only time you threw up, you're like stop from spinning. My philosophy on is like, okay, you know what, I made a mistake, I went too far. Let me just help it along so I can move on. I can go back to enjoying my time.
Why wrestle with this? I can win. I can just get rid of it and then it's gone. Yeah.
I have control of my own fate. I could do this. And so
you like initiated it in that case? You were just like,
I think so, because if I did it, if it was involuntary, then I probably would have just like gone straight to bed from there and be like, all right, man, I can't see you later. That's how it would have been.
Yeah.
But I'm like, you know what? Stomach's empty. I'm good. Let's get this. Let's do some more.
Round 2, fight. Yeah.
But yeah, I've gotten better at being able to know whatever that limit is, and if I do get close to that limit, then I'm like, this isn't good for me. But
Yeah.
let me this doesn't apply to you necessarily because you don't throw up, but I found a good coping mechanism to the spins, and anybody in the chat, who's listening, let me know what your strategies are for the spins. The spinny spins when you're spinning. Here's my strategy. When I'm like ready for bed, I've played games with Matt for like 6 hours. It's 2 in the morning. I'm drunk. He's like, "Oh, let's play Halo." And I'm like, "Yeah, come on, play." But by the way, we played Halo last week, and he was bored after the first round. So I don't know why I fucking downloaded like a 120 gig game. Uh, any, any,
Quick 669 says cry. That's his strategy for the spins, and I'm sure that works.
it's a good strategy because metabolism metabolizes through your tears. Um, anyways, whatever. Playing games with Matt, I get drunk. I got a little bit of spins. Like if I'm sitting on the recliner and I close my eyes and it's like, whoa, whoa. Okay, no, I gotta go to bed. Here's my strategy. I go and I go to the bed and I say, "Move over, Chelsea." Just kidding. I don't. I try not to disturb her, otherwise she'll get mad at me. And then I plop face down with my head on the pillow, and my head is on my forehead is on the edge of the pillow, which leaves enough room for my nose to get air through these little free spots between the bed and and I sleep like a baby. Spins don't affect me none. So I'm laying straight down.
Face down.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I
So like,
can't sleep face down. Period.
well, I mean, when you're spinning, you gotta make. I don't. So my head is like this, right? Uh, and then my nose has, because my head's here, it's lifting me up off the mattress, so I get airflow this way. I got a system,
We're
Travis.
here to solve your problems, guys. This is why we're here.
Uh,
Yeah.
Matt is telling a bad story about me. Have a good day, Face. Best friend, old Matt Size Mode. He came over to my house in Colorado Springs one time, and I told you this story, Travis. I'm pretty sure. He came over for Christmas. He was living in a place called Lamar. He was working at the radio station there. I was in Colorado Springs, just about like an hour and a half, 2 hours away. He came over to visit for Christmas. And what's a great drink for Christmas time? Eggnog and brandy.
There you go.
Okay.
There you go.
Well, Matt is not a small guy. I make sure that my friends are bigger than me, because they're strong ones, and I'm the ones, I just talk shit, and then I'm like, oh no, he'll protect me. Uh, so drinking wise, Matt's got it. Well, Matt made the drinks, and he's like, okay, brandy, eggnog. And then he made me a drink that same ratio. Well, this is one of those times where I couldn't. The face down spins wouldn't help him. So he mentioned a shoe, and there was no trash can next to my bed at all, and I went rushing, and all that was available was one of my running shoes. That was the only container that was available at the time. Anyways, I don't need to go any more detail than that. Just know that I don't have those running shoes anymore.
That's good. Yeah, I had a friend try to finish a bottle of wild turkey on his own, and he felt really sick. He was sitting on my love seat, and when he went to puke, he tried to cover it, but he went like this, which created a fountain that shot it. And maybe that's why I don't puke anymore, is because I don't ever want to see that happen again. Anyway, welcome to the Drinking Podcast, Interdimensional RSS, where we talk about poor decisions being made. Kids, drink responsibly.
Drink responsibly.
Have a plan. Don't drink and drive. You know, be good to each other. And let's find another community that we can hang out with tonight. We'll get a little raid action going on. I'm gonna go search here.
Check this out. To help light me. This is the lamp that I have. Look at that. Look how cool it is. Look, I'm being lit. I just want to let everybody know that if I look well lit, it's because Willy Wonka is making it.
So, so lit. It's making me realize that I need to get myself a better light. If you guys have any, Eric plays bass. Is that one that we should check out? Let's see.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Travis, you did so Alex asked for you to tell a story, and the story behind I think it was the story behind me mixing really whatever. Did you get around to that story?
What? Did I get around to what story?
Yeah, it was part of he was cashing in his watch points. He asked, I feel like there's a story behind this, and it was during the time I think that I was we were talking about me mixing whatever drinks we want to.
Travis tells a story. I feel like there's a story behind this. Well, we did tell a story. I mean, we had that little scene of you opening your bar, and I told a story from my past about losing terribly to quarters. So
I'm gonna mark it as complete.
Yeah,
I'm gonna mark it complete.
But here's the other story. Jim Human Man has good coffee, and he goes to a store, and there's a guy there, and he's like, "I'm hungry. I want cookies." And he's like, "Come inside. There's scorpions out there attacking the house." All right, we are gonna raid Eric Plays Bass per your recommendations. So, and hey, before we do this, guys, I gotta say, you guys are amazing. Every time that we raid a stream, you guys flood those streams with positivity. I see you guys commenting, supporting those streamers, following them, subscribing, doing all kinds of stuff. I love seeing that. So thank you guys so much for representing this channel really well by going to those streams and being awesome. But yeah, like that is exactly what we would love to see is you guys just, spreading the love a little bit further. So we'll go check out this guy rocking out on the bass, and we'll start that raid here in just a minute. So as we sign off, thank you guys so much for watching and hanging out with us, and we cannot wait until next week when we will have another episode to talk about. So get ready to raid, guys, because here we go in about 10 seconds.
Unless you're on YouTube. And then we'll just say a special goodbye to you. All right, you guys are awesome. Go say hi to Eric, and we'll see you next week.
You asked for it.
and I rated as you asked for it. Oh yeah, and so now it's just our YouTube friends, and
it's our YouTube friends,
and you guys are special too. And
oh my God, bass is pretty good at bass, man.
I need to go watch him. All right, so we'll say goodnight to you guys, and you guys have a great night, and